In this video, we're going to learn how to draw some basic Lewis structures. I'm going to walk you through the steps and give a few examples. So the first one we have here is NF3. In step one, anytime you draw Lewis structures, is determine your budget. So your budget is just how many valence electrons this molecule has. And remember, valence electrons, we look in the periodic table, we kind of count the columns. So for NF3, N is in the 5th column, so it has 5 valence electrons. F is in the 7th, so it has 7, but there are 3 F atoms. So there's 21 from the F, 5 from the N, so the total budget is 26. So what that means is there can be no more than 26 electrons in my final Lewis structure. In fact, I have to have exactly 26. I can't have under either. So the next thing I have, once I've got my budget, is I want to pick my central atom. And your central atom is often going to be the element that appears alone, like N compared to F3. That's usually a sign of it. Or it's usually the one that can form more bonds, like further to the left on the table. Like carbon likes 4 bonds because it's 4 spaces away from the noble gases. N is 3 spaces. So anyway, the central atom is N. And then you're just going to connect the rest of the atoms to that. These are what we call simple molecules. More complex ones, it might be a little trickier, but generally you're just going to connect them all to the central atom. And that's called our skeleton structure. Then what we're going to do for step 3 is we're going to obey the Octet Rule for the outer atoms. So we're going to fill in dots for all the outer atoms until they get their 8. So right now F essentially has 2 from this bond, so it needs to have 6 more, and now it is full. We're going to do the same with this F, and the same thing with this F. So we make sure the Octet Rule is filled for all the outer atoms. Then we're going to check our budget and see where we're at. How many electrons have we drawn so far? So our budget was 26. At the moment, we've drawn 2, 4, 6, 8 on this. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. We've drawn 24. So we check the budget to see if the central atom can get to 8. What I mean by that is right now the central atom only has 6. So to get to 8, it really needs 2 more. And we ask ourselves, are we in the budget for that? Well, our budget's 26. We've only used 24, so yes, in fact, we are in budget for it, so we're done. So that's pretty much what we do. So the final structure, what we're looking at are 3 things. We want to make sure our budget works. That's the number 1 rule. We have to fit the budget. So the budget's 26, and I have 26 here. The second thing we usually follow is the Octet Rule. There are some examples where it won't, but 90-something% of the time it will. So are there 8 around here? So F has 8, N has 8, F has 8, F has 8. So that checks out. And the last one we'd like to follow are what I call bond preferences. So the bond preference is pretty much just how many bonds would this atom like to form. And the general rule for that is however far you are from the noble gases, that's how many they like to form. So F, Cl, Bri, these are all 1 space away from the noble gases. They like to form 1 bond. Whereas the next column over, so we're looking at O, S, etc., they like to form 2 bonds. And then, P and N are 3 spaces from the noble gases. They like to form 3. So you like to check and see if the bond preferences are satisfied. That doesn't always hold up, but in this case, N likes 3, N has 3, F likes 1, it has 1. Everything checks out. So this is the Lewis structure for NF3. Let's do another. So here's CH2Cl2. So first I do my budget. Carbon has 4. Hydrogens have 2 total. Chlorines have 14 total. So the total budget's 20. My central atom is going to be carbon. Whenever you have carbon, that's usually a central atom. And then we're just going to put all these other atoms off this. For now, we're not going to really worry about where. They're actually kind of pretty much the same, but we'll do that. We'll check the Octet Rule for the outer atoms. So for chlorine, I need to add 6 dots to get to 8. And then I will look at the hydrogens. Hydrogens never need dots. The bond is enough. Hydrogen is okay with 2 electrons because it's one of those smaller atoms. So all these outer ones have their 8. I check my budget, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. I've already reached my budget, but carbon doesn't need any more because it already has 8 from these bonds. So everything checks out. This Lewis structure is good. Let's do another. NOF. So N has 5, O has 6, F has 7 for a total of 18. Now we want to choose the central atom. So this is one where it's less obvious, but typically you're going to do the one that forms the most bonds. So N, having 5 electrons, likes to form 3 bonds to get to a noble gas. O usually only likes 2. So N's going to be my choice to put in the middle. So I'll put NOF. And that's my start, and then I'm going to fill in the dots on the outer atoms to get to 8. And here I am. And so my budget's 18. So I check right now, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So I still have 2 in my budget, but N doesn't need 2, it needs 4. So let's give it what it can for now. The problem is N still needs more electrons, but I'm out of budget. So what we do then is we make a double bond. Effectively, we move some electrons from one of the outer atoms to make a double bond. Now, which one? Well, O has 6 electrons, so it really wants to form 2 bonds. F has 7, it only really wants to form 1. So this would be a bad choice for a double bond, so I'm not going to put the double bond on F. Instead, what I'll do is I'm effectively going to move these electrons in between N and O. So I'm going to erase these electrons here, and I'm going to move them so they're between N and O. And what that does is it lets me count the electrons for both. So now N has 8, effectively. O has 8, and F has 8, and my budget's met. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. It all checks out. So that is the Lewis structure for NOF. And that is it. So we'll do some more with some other ones, but this is the basic Lewis structure, how to draw them. Until next time, I am Derek Genova. Have a delightful day.